Good evening and welcome to the final edition of Penn State Sports Night for the 2017-2018 school year. I'm Melly French, and alongside me for his final time of his Penn State Sports Night career is Christian Korapakis. But guys, don't be too sad. Grab that box of tissues next to you and get ready, as we will be providing you with all the information you need regarding Penn State football for next season, some NBA insight from our own Hunter Pitkoff, and expert analysis for the NFL draft that will begin this Thursday. But first, Christian, let's start with the not so good and what we saw from Penn State baseball this past weekend.
Well, not so good is a perfect way to describe it. After they snapped their horrifying 11-game losing streak last Wednesday, they weren't able to build on it in Ann Arbor as they were swept in a weekend series against the Michigan Wolverines. The Nittany Lions were outscored 41-14. And the lone bright spot seemed to come on Saturday when they took the Big Ten leading Wolverines to 11 innings. Bucknell is up next for Penn State as they come to Happy Valley on Tuesday. And Ellie, as Penn State currently sits dead last in the Big Ten with an overall record of 8-25, a win will go a long way in finishing the year strong to build confidence for next year, and a team that maybe took a step back in terms of confidence, Penn State lacrosse.
That's right, Christian. Penn State lacrosse hit the road yesterday. They were looking really red hot in the beginning, but unfortunately things took a turn in the opposite direction for the number 12 ranked Nittany Lions, who faced number 10 Rutgers on the road. To the first quarter we go, only minute 20 on the scoreboard, as Kevin Hill decided he was going to get things started early, picking up the first goal of the game. But wait here just a minute, as Tanner Peck decided he wanted to crash the scoring party as well, joining his teammate on the board and giving the Nittany Lions a 2-0 lead. Things were looking good early for Penn State, but their hosts had a different game plan in mind. Rutgers closed out the first half on a 7-1 run as Penn State headed into the locker room trailing 7-3 at the half. To the second half now, Penn State able to bring the game within a goal with 12:30 left in gameplay. But the Scarlet Knights defense proved too strong against the attack as they were able to seal the victory at home on an open net goal, defeating the Nittany Lions 11-8. Penn State dropped to number 14 as a result of the loss and fell to 2-2 in Big Ten play. So Christian, not too good of a weekend for Penn State lacrosse as well. But let's talk about Penn State golf and what they did this past weekend.
They're doing very well. The Nittany Lions notched their 8th straight top 5 finish at the Kepler Intercollegiate this weekend as the team placed third with a team total of 16 over. Sophomore Ryan Davis led the team with his first ever top 5 finish, shooting a 1 under 70 during the final round to finish tied for second. Penn State will travel to Maryland this Friday for the Big Ten Championship, so let's see if Penn State can add yet another Big Ten Championship to their mantle. Now, speaking of teams who know a little bit about winning Big Ten championships, Ellie, let's talk some Penn State football because they had their blue and white game this weekend.
They did indeed, and I can tell you that Penn State's uniforms weren't the only thing that were blue and white this past weekend, as Mother Nature treated the town to some beautiful weather for the annual spring game that saw 71,000 fans pack into Beaver Stadium. And for the 4th year in a row, Blue team led by quarterback Trace Sorley defeated the white team by a score of 21-10. Now, while the game is a great way for fans to possibly get a glimpse of what they may see in the upcoming season, it is also a fun weekend that usually includes many alumni finding their way back into town, including Penn State alum Keegan-Michael Key, who returned back to Happy Valley, dressing up like head football coach James Franklin, and even filling in for the head coach during a halftime interview conducted by former Letterman turned Big Ten Network sideline reporter Anthony Spice Adams. Now, to talk more about what fans may have seen during the game for the blue and white game this past weekend, we are joined by our Penn State football insider, Jack Hirsch, to talk about some takeaways from the matchup. So, Jack, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Wish that transition was a little better, but we're good. We're really good.
Shots fired. So just looking at the whole thing, which players do you think boosted their stock after the blue and white game?
So we have to look at, I like to look at corners, especially because Penn State is losing their entire secondary from a year ago. So who jumped out to me was Zach McPherson. It's spelled Z-E-C-H, so it was a little confusing, but it's Zach. So Zach McPherson had 3 passes defended, really just kind of stole the show on that white team secondary. Played really well, and he's got a chance. He's probably not going to start. It looks like those spots are kind of locked up by Amani Arawaraway, another really difficult name to pronounce, and Tyreek Castro-Fields. who were kind of the second cornerback pair last year, as well as John Reed, who's going to be coming back from injury. So we'll see how limited he is because we didn't really get a chance to see much of him this past weekend. Another guy who really stood out is, the new big man on campus, Micah Parsons, number 11, LeVar Arrington's number. Guy is playing will linebacker, the weak side linebacker, after coming in playing running back and defensive end throughout high school. He led the blue team in tackles with 8. Obviously, this is the blue and white game, so scrimmage, so we got a lot to kind of take that in stride, but Micah Parsons had a beautiful start to his Penn State career and one he should be very proud of.
Absolutely, and just kind of taking a look at this game and offensively what you saw, obviously Saquon Barkley not in there. Looking at the season for next year, are you feeling optimistic about Penn State being able to replace Barkley?
Well, we only got to see Miles Sanders for 3 carries. He only gained 6 yards, so we didn't really get to see much of him because while he's been a backup to Barkley, we know what he is. So we saw a lot of Mark Allen. We saw a little bit of Journey Brown, who I'm really excited for. Wasn't playing in this game with Ricky Slade, 5-star running back recruit coming in. I'm perfectly confident that Penn State is going to be able to have a serviceable level of production at running back. But the interesting thing will be how will Trace McSorley compete when the opposing defenses aren't keying in on Saquon Barkley.
So thanks, Jack, for the inside information there. And Saquon Barkley is a perfect transition because now as Penn State fans keep a close eye on this year's draft because of that man, Saquon Barkley, we decided to ask students around campus where they want to see the superstar running back end up. Our very own Jason Marcus has the answers for you regarding that.
Hey guys, Jason Marcus here from Penn State Sports Night. We are just a couple days away from the 2018 NFL Draft, where Penn State running back Saquon Barkley is projected to be one of the top picks in this year's draft. I know where I want him to go, but now we're going to find out where the rest of Penn State wants him to go. So come with me and let's find out where Saquon's going. Where do you think Saquon's going to go, but where do you want him to go?
I honestly think he's going to end up with the Giants at the 2nd pick, but I want to see him go to the Browns, number 1 overall.
And for you?
I actually think he's going to go to the Browns because I don't know how you pass on him, but I want him to go to the Giants because I'm a Giants fan.
All right, you heard it here. Where do you guys think Saquon Barkley's going to go?
Unfortunately, the Giants.
Yeah, number 2, the Giants.
I think he's going number 1, generational talent.
All right, you guys heard it here first. Where do you think Saquon Barkley's going to go? Where do you want him to go?
I think and want him to go to the Browns. I want him to play with Baker Mayfield. I think that would be an absolutely electric combo.
All right. Where do you think he's going to go? Where do you want him to go?
I think he's going to go to the Giants because I want him to go to the Giants.
I think he's going to go to the Giants, but I don't want him to go there because I'm an Eagles fan, and he'd run all over our defense too. So I hope he goes to the Browns.
There you go. 2 different opinions. Where do you think he's going to go? Where do you want him to go?
I think he's going to go number 2 to the Giants. That's only because I made a deal with the devil earlier in the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, then he could torture me for the next 10 years with the Giants. So that's what's
All right. Where do you think Saquon's going to go? Where do you want him to go?
I think he's going to go to the Calgary Stampede. I'd like him to go to the Eagles.
You heard that first. Saquon Barkley going to Canada. Book it. Where do you think he's going to go?
I want him to go number 3 to the Jets, but he's going to go number 2 to the Giants.
All right, well, there you have it. A lot of different answers here on the campus of Penn State University. Some people think he's going to the Giants. Some people think he's going to the Browns. Some people think he's going to Canada. So a bunch of different opinions here, but the only way to find out is to tune into this Thursday for the first round of the NFL Draft, see where Saquon Barkley and the rest of the Penn State football players go. You're watching Penn State Sports Night. I'm Jason Marcus. Now let's go back to Christian and Ellie back in the studio.
Thanks, Jason. And Christian, I can't believe this Thursday is already the NFL Draft.
It came up real quick, and I just want to say something. Like, everyone's looking at Saquon Barkley. There are plenty of other Penn State football players to watch. Mike Gesicki, Deshaun Hamilton, Troy Apke, the list goes on and on. So don't sleep on the other Nittany Lions.
Absolutely, and that'll do it for us for now. But coming up next on Penn State Sports Night is Tom Johnson and Zach Saco, who will give us a healthy dose of Penn State football and what to expect for next season.
Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Zach Saco, I'm Tom Johnston, here to give you a little preview of what's to come for the upcoming Penn State football season. So Zach, blue and white game happened Saturday. Blue team came out on top, but the offensive stuff is going to look different. Saquon Barkley, Mike Gesicki, Deshaun Hamilton going off to the pros. Ronnie is going to replace Joe Moorhead as offensive coordinator. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a big change for the offense. It finally becomes Trace McSorley's team. How is the team going to adjust with Trace McSorley being really the leader of this team? Everyone's going to look towards him. So if he can find ways to facilitate with his arm, with his legs, use Jawan Johnson and Miles Sanders, they need to turn into superstars. That's the way the offense is going to have to roll. And with Ricky Ronnie, we had a small portion size with the Fiesta Bowl. He did very well, scoring 35 points, called an excellent game. So there's not going to be much change. It's still going to be the spread, fast-paced offense, but I think the offense is in very good hands come 2018.
Now, on the other hand, defense, losing 8 starters, most notably Jason Kabinda, Brandon Smith, the entire secondary, both defensive tackles. Also, Manny Bone is no longer with the team. How are they going to fill these holes?
Yeah, this is a big change for the defense. The defense has to fill all those seniors, an entire secondary, a secondary that struggled towards the end of the season down the stretch. They did have a decent game against a Washington team, but I was really disappointed against their performances like Ohio State, Michigan State. And trying to fill all these gaps with younger guys, they do get some guys back. They get John Reed, they get Oruwariye back, but really it's going to be how the growing pains are going to be with players like Lamont Wade, Tariq Castro Fields, etc. So the defense, and in addition to that, the linebackers, Kabinda, your signal caller on the defensive end is gone. How do you adjust with that? Micah Parsons coming in. You would like to redshirt a talent that he is, but he is so good. Franklin couldn't keep him off the field, and now he might get playing time right out of the gate as a true freshman. That's how good this guy is. So the defense has much bigger question marks than the offense does, and we'll see how it goes from there. Brent Pry is a great coordinator, but he has a lot of turnover, and in the Big Ten, a lot of teams like Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin return a lot of their firepower. So we're going to get into this, but the schedule, man, talk to me about the schedule.
Yeah, that schedule is going to be tough. You know, Penn State, they have a pretty tough schedule for Big Ten standards. How does it affect their overall record, and are they up for the task?
It is going to affect their overall record. I mean, they're playing Wisconsin this year. They have a rematch with Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, teams that they either battled down the stretch or teams that are out looking for revenge like the Wolverines. They got to go back up to Michigan where Harbaugh and his team pounded them 2 years ago, and they got revenge in Beaver Stadium, so now it's kind of a back and forth thing. We'll see how that goes. But the way their schedule's set up, they play Ohio State, they play Michigan State back-to-back. Those are two very tough teams. And I think I could see a potential trap game here. Indiana. Now, Indiana isn't as much of a team that one would expect to beat a good Penn State team, but going on the road after facing a reloaded Ohio State team, a reloaded Michigan State team, a very good Michigan State team, mind you, and then have to go on the road to Indiana where you might least expect it. We saw Penn State didn't handle it well last year when they went to Ohio State and then went to Michigan State. They might end up doing the same thing again here, and it would be kind of disappointing. And then towards the end of the season when they got to play Michigan and Wisconsin back-to-back, I know Michigan's on the road and Wisconsin's at home. You would like them to take both of those games, but Michigan, they're going to play them tough. So Wisconsin returning a lot of starters on offense. That could honestly be an offensive shootout, believe it or not.
Well, that's your thoughts. For Zach Saco, I'm Tom Johnston. We now throw it to Hunter Pickoff with NBA potential trades for next season.
Welcome back to the final episode of Penn State Sports Night for the school year, and as it is the final episode, we also have our final PSSN mock draft before the NFL draft kicks off this Thursday night. We have Jeremy Gaines here to break down his NFL mock draft 4.0. Lots of interesting storylines heading into this draft, especially for Happy Valley, as 8 former Nittany Lions expect to hear their name called at some point this weekend, and that they're all led by dynamic tailback and potential #1 overall pick Saquon Barkley. So just one quick disclaimer before we get started here. Of course, as we get a little closer to the draft, picks are going to start flying between teams, but not on Penn State Sports Night, as this mock draft does not account for any potential trades that have not already been finalized. So Jeremy, you are now on the clock. Let's start out with your #1 pick here.
All right, Jack. So going #1, I have Sam Darnold, the quarterback from USC, going to those Browns. You know, he is probably the most talent out of any quarterback in this class. He's pretty polished, just a lot of ability. I liken him to an Aaron Rodgers who can just make lots of different things happen behind the line of scrimmage, moving outside the pocket. Next at #2 to the Giants, I have Bradley Chubb.
That's a big surprise here.
Yes, a bit of a big surprise. I know the expectation for a lot of people is that Saquon Barkley goes at that spot, but I like Chubb at this spot because of Gettleman's offensive and defensive line philosophy. At number 3 for the Jets, I have quarterback Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma. You got to like his moxie, his leadership skills. You know, he really gets guys to rally around him. A really, really accurate quarterback, the most accurate quarterback in this class. Next at number 4, Saquon Barkley, the running back from Penn State. You know, obviously a really dynamic player, and at this spot can give the Browns, you know, their 2 offensive cornerstones if the draft plays out this way. At number 5, I have Josh Rosen, the quarterback from UCLA, arguably the most polished guy in this draft at quarterback. The most pure pocket passer, best arm in terms of just throwing accuracy. So a great prospect at that spot for the Broncos who need a long-term solution at that position.
So that's your top 5. What are some of like maybe 5, 6 other picks in this draft that you think are kind of, you know, stand out to you?
I would say at number 10, Roquan Smith is a guy to look out for. You know, he's just that kind of impact player on defense who, even though he's not playing multiple positions, it feels like he has an impact on the entire side of the defensive side of the ball, just with his ability to stop the run. He rushes the passer well, and he's just making plays all over the field if you watch him at Georgia at all. Another guy I like here, Josh Allen to the Dolphins. The Dolphins really haven't had a big solution at quarterback in a while. You know, Jay Cutler was a temporary solution last year, but he's not really going to be back there. So the Dolphins are going to look to get a quarterback. I think Josh Allen is good for the fit for them, with a lot of potential, but also a lot of bust potential with, you know, some accuracy issues there. Another guy I like is Mason Rudolph to the Bills, who also need a quarterback. You could look for them to trade up, but obviously we're not doing that. So at this spot, Mason Rudolph would not be a bad pick here. Someone who has shown ability in college. There's some questions about arm strength though, so that's why you might see him go mid to late in the first round. Another guy I want to look at here is Lamar Jackson. You know, an electric athlete, so electric that, you know, a lot of scouts for a while were looking at him at wide receiver, but you know, I think that he should be looked at as a quarterback because he has the ability to throw. Just needs to clean up on some mechanic things, and needs to be worked into as a pocket passer a little bit more. But you know, has that athletic ability to make things happen, running out of the pocket, scrambling, and doing things like that. So you know, definitely a project, but has a lot of potential.
Yeah, you're really high on him. You have the quarterback from Louisville a lot higher than some of our other drafts. Now, in the second half, what jumps out to you in picks 17 through 32?
Over here for the Seahawks, Denzel Ward, the cornerback from OSU. You got to love any defensive back from Ohio State because they've just been churning him out in the past couple of years. Marshawn Lattimore, rather, definitely a name that comes to mind. The Seahawks, you know, they just got rid of Richard Sherman this past offseason, so they're probably going to be looking to replace that shutdown corner spot, and Denzel Ward is definitely the guy to do it. He has lots of length and, you know, prototypical measurables in terms of height and all that, and just has great game tape and shows that he's competitive against any good receiver. Another guy I want to look at is Courtland Sutton for the Bills, another Bills pick. You know, this is going to be an important draft for them. They're probably going to be looking to re-engineer their whole offense with a lot of these selections. Courtland Sutton, a guy who has elite speed. The question mark around him, though, is he going to be able to figure out how to beat some of these tougher, more physical corners?
And there it is. So that's your mock draft 4.0. I got a couple questions for you. So let's go back to that number 2 overall pick. Now, a lot of the wisdom says that if the Browns pass on Barkley at number 1, thinking they're going to get him at number 4, they're going to be able to because everyone's going to go quarterback, quarterback, quarterback with your first 3 quarterbacks off the board there, and Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, and Sam Darnold in some sort of order. But you have Bradley Chubb interrupting that kind of dynamic there. That's a really interesting pick. Not many experts have Chubb at number 2. Why did you do that?
Well, as I kind of alluded to before, Gettleman for a while now has had this kind of philosophy that you want to build in-out. So that kind of means, you know, building your defensive and offensive lines first, and as a defensive end, Chubb kind of fits that bill. You know, you think about the guys that the Giants already have, like Olivier Vernon, who was not that healthy last year, among other problems that the Giants had, you know, that hurt their pass rush. So if you combine Vernon with Chubb, you could have a really dangerous pass rush for the Giants and help a defense that wasn't so strong last year and get them back to a couple years ago to the kind of defense that was basically carrying them to the playoffs.
So obviously, also the big storyline in this draft is that 2 picks in that top 5 belong to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland obviously has not had a successful history with drafting 2 guys in the first round. It's seeming like every year they have 2 picks in the first round, but never before 2 picks in the top 5. A lot of signals coming out of Cleveland camp right now are that the Browns are thinking of taking 2 quarterbacks in the top 5. Are you buying or selling that as just smoke?
I'm selling it. I can't believe it for a second. Just because you think about a team like the Browns, you could name any position anywhere on that roster, they could probably get better at that position. So, they obviously need a quarterback. There's plenty to choose from here. If you're the Browns, take the guy that you love. Other than that, there are plenty of other good position players, so you can always get better at those positions. Barkley can give you a huge offensive weapon to pair with the quarterback that you're pretty much guaranteed to take. Chubb can give you an excellent defensive player. And Josh Allen is another quarterback that they could take. There's any number of positions that they could get better at, and I don't really see how it helps them to go 1/4 quarterback. I can see them going 1 quarterback and taking quarterback in a middle round pick and have that second guy maybe be a developmental kind of quarterback, but I don't really see how it makes sense for them to go 1/4 quarterback.
I guess just if you're the Browns, you just got to try and get it right and give yourself as many chances to do that.
Yep.
There's a lot of talk right now about Penn State's Mike Gesicki, especially after his huge combine performance where he led tight ends in just about every category, ran the 40-yard dash in the low 4.5s. He's gone as high as 20 in some of our previous mock drafts. You didn't have him here in your first round.
Yeah, I didn't. And the reason that I did not is because even though, as talented as he is and as much as the combine helped him, even before the combine there were questions about his play strength and his ability to kind of win one-on-one battles with more elite defenders in the NFL. Obviously, the combine shows that he has ability to beat some guys in terms of separation. He has that vertical separation ability with great leaping ability. But again, it's a question of does he know how to play the tight end position as well as some other guys in this draft? And he's certainly a great athlete, but again, his skills need a little bit of refinement. So I don't have him in round 1. Definitely a good early round 2 pick, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, and certainly Gesicki, a player who didn't even know how to play the tight end position coming out of high school. So I'll just ask you one final question. So unlike previous drafts, we've known what's going to happen with the number 1 pick, like in 2012 when we knew Andrew Luck was going number 1 and Robert Griffin was going number 2, and even last year when we knew the Cleveland Browns were going to take Myles Garrett. This year, there's so much uncertainty. Why?
Well, there's a couple things. One, you have some really elite position players. The second thing, though, is that the quarterbacks are kind of a unique situation in that they're elite, but there's also a lot of things wrong with them. They each have their own kind of individual things that make you, like question marks, really, that give you pause. Darnold has the turnover issue. Josh Allen has that accuracy issue and some footwork issues. Josh Rosen has some, and Baker Mayfield also has some questions about their attitude individually. So, when you evaluate these quarterbacks, it's in the eye of the beholder. And, some scouts think one quarterback is better than the other, and, they all kind of evaluate them differently. So it's very controversial in that way because not every quarterback is kind of like slotted at the same spot for everyone. They don't view them all the same way, really.
Darnold, Rosen, Saquon Barkley even maybe, Josh Allen, so many different scenarios that can play out in this year's draft, but we'll all find out on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as the NFL draft takes place in Dallas. And that'll do it for us. That's the final PSSN mock draft. For Jeremy Gaines, I'm Jack Hirsch, and we'll be right back here on Penn State Sports Night.
Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Hunter Pitkoff, and tonight I'll be going into depth about how one potential and realistic trade can change the entire landscape of the NBA. The tension between the San Antonio Spurs and their superstar player Kawhi Leonard has been heating up during the course of the season as Leonard has been absent from the team over the past 2 months. With the decline of the Spurs dynasty and the future of Leonard questionable at best, the Spurs may be looking this summer to ship Leonard and get some assets for him before he becomes a free agent in 2019. Now, looking at the landscape of the NBA, one team that could be legitimate players in the Leonard sweepstakes are the Boston Celtics. With the young talent and excess of draft picks on the Celtics, the Spurs may bite the bait and be intrigued with the idea that adding more youth on its veteran roster. A potential trade scenario developed by yours truly includes sending off Leonard to Boston in exchange for Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and 2 first-round draft picks. This trade would position San Antonio to succeed both now and when head coach Greg Popovich retires. Now looking at the Celtics, Kawhi Leonard gives them another all-star to team up and pair with Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, and a great supporting cast. Leonard's unselfish play and lockdown ability on the defensive end puts Boston over the top as the overwhelming favorite in the Eastern Conference. Now, how will this change the NBA? Head coach Brad Stevens has the perfect system in place to contend and even beat the Golden State Warriors in a final series. The ability to switch on defense is what stands out with Boston in this trade scenario. Plus, the experience Leonard and Irving have in the finals makes the offense more lethal than it's ever been. With the Spurs' history of grooming young talent, I believe Tatum and Brown have the ability to become all-stars. On the other hand, I think the Celtics will win at least 1 championship in the next 3 years and 2 in the next 5. Danny Ainge, if you're watching this, take a page out of my book and get on the phone. Up next on Penn State Sports Night, Ellie French and Christian Korpakis will be closing out the show for the final time this school year.
Thanks so much, Hunter. Now to end our show, like I said earlier, it is our very own Christian Korpakis' last show ever for Penn State Sports Night. So Christian, we're really sad to see you go, but we just got to ask you, what were some of your favorite memories from the show?
Meeting these people.
Aww. Even Jack?
Even Jack. Even Jack. That's
well,
it.
We're sad to see him go, but we're so lucky that we had him. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys for next year. Bye for now.
Trust the process.
Stop. Don't put that in there.